Hey, this is Mike Hambright. Welcome back for another exciting Flip Nerd VIP interview show. Today I have with me Carl Fischer, who runs Camoplan. It's a self-directed IRA company, and there's a lot of myths and a lot of opportunities with self-directed IRAs. We're going to talk some more about Carl, learn his background, and talk about self-directed IRAs and Camoplan in general in just a moment. Before we get started, please take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days. Rates start as low as 9%. We'd also like to thank National Real Estate Insurance Group, the nation's leading provider of insurance to the residential real estate investor market. From individual properties to large-scale investors, National Real Estate Insurance Group is ready to serve you. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of FlipNerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, Carl. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Mike. Thanks a lot for having me here.
Good. And so I understand you, before we get started talking about you, you just got back from the National RIA Cruise. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. It left out of Fort Lauderdale, went down to St. Thomas, Jamaica, and Haiti, and it was definitely a lot warmer than it is in Philadelphia. And I'm still in Florida. It hurts me to have to go back to that snow and ice and
I understand
temperatures.
I can appreciate that. So while we're here, tell us how the cruise went overall. Just kind of hot off the press information. So how was it?
I think it was great. There was more people showing up to the National RIA Cruise than there was last year. They had a new forum on there where they did a lot of panels. There was actually some deals that were done. There were a lot of discussions with a lot of very intelligent people on where the market is, where it's going, the different hot spots, and what's hot and what's not anymore. So I found it very entertaining as well as informative. I couldn't think of a better way to spend a week when it was freezing in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about your background and how you guys started. I know you, like many of us and many folks, didn't necessarily start in real estate, but found your way there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Carl?
Well, I will tell you that my grandparents on both sides of the family were in real estate. My mom and dad had their own real estate, and I come from a large family of 12 brothers and sisters, and they all have real estate. So we were introduced to real estate at a very young age. I used to think it was okay to be out fixing septic tanks on Thanksgiving and things like that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't afraid of real estate as I got older. We were in the construction business, so I was building houses. It just felt very good to be there. It was natural because you did grow up about it, and you just learned a lot about it, and you saw the different things, and you learned from your parents and grandparents.
Right.
So not being in real estate was one of those things that I never thought I wouldn't be in. But I graduated as an engineer from Cornell University, and I launched rockets for 18 years at Kennedy Space Center, working on the shuttle, commercial vehicles, and also Titan U.S. Air Force launches.
Awesome.
But while I was doing that, I just kept buying real estate, because the more real estate I'd buy, the depreciation I'd be able to get, and the more money that I made, I was able to keep. Yeah. So I started at a very young age buying real estate. My first piece of property I bought in 1977. So I've been in it a while. And I'm very real estate oriented from that aspect. And
Sure.
I've just been in real estate ever since then. So it's more interesting how I got into the self-directed IRAs, because I had read every book there was on saving taxes and watching more and more taxes leave and go out of the way. And the more money you make, the more taxes you pay. And as you buy real estate and pay it off and your depreciation goes away, you learn you learn that you're paying higher and higher taxes.
Right.
So I was still launching rockets when my dad died in 1993, and he died land rich and cash poor, and he actually had a loan that he owed like 28% was the interest rate because it had defaulted when he was sick the year before he died. And I went out and I found somebody to lend me money out of the newspaper, and make a long story short, it was from his IRA. And I saw the low loan to value and the 12% return that he was getting on it, but I moved the interest rate from 28 to 12. And he said he gets 12 to 18, and a lot of people say that. But after a year, I got everything back together again, and I said, look, I can refinance this property and pay you off unless you drop your rate to 7%. He said, Carl, I appreciate it, but I've got people waiting in line to borrow money from 12 to 18%, and you're the lowest I have out there, so no thanks. So I refinanced and gave it back to him. But then I looked at it and I said, well, this is really a good thing if I can make 12%. And if the person doesn't pay me back, like in my situation, it was a 30% loan to value. He was going to make a bunch of money.
Right.
So that's how I started getting into the self-directed IRAs and coupling it with real estate and notes and loans.
Yeah.
I couldn't think anything better.
Okay. And have you primarily always been a buy and hold type guy, or have you been involved in, other common things, wholesaling or fixing up houses, reselling them?
Can you repeat that question? You dropped out for a little.
Yeah, I was just curious if are you primarily a buy and hold guy, or have you flipped houses before, been a wholesaler, other things, or primarily buy and hold?
I am primarily buy and hold. I think that's the way my parents were, and my father, used to let me run into the post office box and pick up the checks and then open up the envelopes and pile them up. So that's what I learned. I also found out that it's a lazy man's game too. If I flip houses, then I have to go find another one. Whereas if I get a good deal on a buy and hold, the money just keeps pouring in. So I do like the buy and hold.
Yeah, I've talked recently to a number of folks, and once you've been a real estate investor for a while and done a number of deals, you always look back and regret that if you're, a fix and flip type guy like I am, and I have we definitely have a rental portfolio as well, but you always look back and regret the ones that you didn't keep. Like, I wish I would have kept that now. Of course, at the time it made sense, it made business sense for whatever reason, but you definitely always regret that you didn't keep more. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would say that, but I can look back to 2006, 7, and 8, and I said I should have sold more.
Yeah.
At that point in time, because I could have bought them back for half the price. Because I have properties in Florida.
Okay.
And I've seen them go up and I've seen them go back down. And now they're coming back up again. So it's definitely a cycle. Don't beat yourself up too much for it. And not that I haven't ever flipped, but I have bought stuff and have had it rented, and people did come in and say, "Hey, you interested in selling?" And my answer is, I'm always interested in selling if it's high enough.
That's right.
But primarily I buy and hold.
So after you got a feel for what some of the power of self-directed IRAs were, how'd you make the leap to say, well, I'm going to start a company to enable other people to do this?
Well, in 1993, when I first found out about them, it was very hard to get any information. Al Gore had just invented the internet, so it had started to help me find information on self-direction. But there wasn't nearly the books out there. The IRS wasn't very familiar with it. I actually called up the bank of the person that gave me the loan when my father died, and I asked the bank, how do I do that? And they told me I didn't have enough money and not to bother them. They only did it for their high net worth individuals. And I called the IRS, and I called a lot of people around town. I went to my accountant, my attorney, my financial advisor, my banker, and I asked them if they knew anything about it. And they said, no, that sounds too good to be true. I don't think it's legal. So after another year and a half of researching it and figuring it out, I finally pulled the trigger and did an experiment, and then ran it by my accountant and attorney, and they said, hey, yeah, no, that's fine. You're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And like I said, I come from a big family, so I have a pretty big sphere of influence. And I said, well, look at this. Everybody likes it. And I started talking to other real estate investors. And it was just a quick, easy way to get, 15 to 50% better returns on your real estate if you're not paying any income tax on it, depending on what tax rate you're in. And I'd read all the books on saving taxes and moving refrigerators and depreciation. This was just a no-brainer to pick up like 50% better returns. And I could have the best tenants and the lowest rents, which was one of my philosophies. I'd rather not have a place rented than put a lousy tenant in there.
Yeah.
So not having to pay taxes just helped me like my tenants more.
Right. And so what triggered you seeing that as a great vehicle for yourself to starting Camoplan and starting a business to help enable other folks to do that?
Well, once I started telling other people about it, they said, hey, we trust you, Carl. We like you, but, we have to ship our money all over the United States to these custodians, et cetera. Why don't you just open up your own company?
Yeah.
And, so I didn't have a software background, so I brought my sister in, who's about 15 years younger than I was, and graduated from Villanova and had a very good accounting and systems software background. And she said, yeah, I love this. And as a result, I ended up doing the deals side of it, or the sales side of it, and she worked the back office and set up the systems. And everybody liked it, so the whole company just kept growing.
Yeah.
It was more work than I thought it was.
It always is, isn't it? Everything is always more work than you thought it would be. Well, talk a little bit about how, because one of the things that I actually do not use self-directed IRAs at this point, and there's no good reason for it at this point that I don't. But I think that's something that'll change soon. But talk a little bit about some of the issues that some folks have, depending on because it's really a long-term, it's more of a long-term planning tool, right? Like some folks that are interested in saving taxes, that part is great, but they don't have the ability to take that profit and put it away until they're 59 and a half. Is that the right age?
Yeah, 59 and a half for IRAs and 55 for 401ks.
Okay.
I always tell people not to, if you're hungry and you need to put food on the table, now's not the time to be putting money into an IRA or a 401k.
Right.
But it was kind of pretty simple when I had a job and I was launching rockets and I liked it. I made enough money there, and I had a 401k at the company. So basically, they would put a extra couple of thousand in my account a year based on how much I worked and how much I made.
Right.
Whereas I started buying houses in my IRA and 401ks, and once I did that, I could have as many houses as I wanted, and the tenants were putting $1,000 a month into these accounts.
Right.
And all tax deferred. At the, before 1998, it was all tax deferred. So after that, I found out about the tax-free Roth IRAs, and I just, I don't know anything better. It's just the best way I've found to grow wealth. If you have W-2 money, you're paying 40 to 50 to 60%, depending on your state and federal income tax, not to mention some local taxes that are out there.
Right.
And those tax rates just keep going up.
Right.
Because, I was there in the Reagan years when it was 28% was the maximum tax rate. Now the maximum tax rate is 40%, and they're throwing another few percent here and there with Obamacare.
Yeah.
So losing 50% of my income wasn't very entertaining to me at all, to say
Right.
the least.
Yeah.
So by putting these houses and
But Carl,
getting away,
you've got to pay your fair share.
well, I understand paying my fair share. I still make enough to live on,
I
and
understand.
I pay more than I am. And I know you're joking a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit, but you're also providing housing for people.
Right.
Whereas, the stock market, I have no control over.
Right.
I don't like it when, they kill bin Laden and the market goes down, or they riot in Greece and the market goes down, or oranges are great in Brazil and the market goes up. That's no way to plan your retirement.
Right.
And I want financial freedom. And the self-directed IRA or the do-it-yourself IRA let me invest in things I know and understand and have some sort of control over it, right?
Right.
Not that anything is risky, right? Because I have property right around Kennedy Space Center, and when the shuttle moved out of here and a lot of the other programs shut down, the economy was decimated, and that happened right after the real estate bubble burst. So you understand a lot of these things, but you have to play through them, and you can figure out what to do to some extent. And it's not like you didn't see it coming. It wasn't like they warned you that the shuttle was going to be closing down and that they did not a chaotic exit, but, I don't know what you'd call it, a step down exit, over time,
Yeah.
which, was a little bit easier to handle.
Right. Right. So what do you think some of the big misconceptions about self-directed IRAs is? I guess, one of those things, just to kind of tee it up for you, is I think a lot of folks assume they have to use their own money, but there's some folks that purposely rely on kind of creating a private bank with other people's money. But can you just talk a little bit about some of the, you love them, but talk a little bit about why some people will love them, but they just aren't aware yet. I mean, what are some of the reasons why more people don't use these today?
Well, I'll tell you the first one is after they hear a presentation from me, they go to their advisors, and several of them still say that it's illegal. Even though there's been court cases about it, there's hundreds of books on it, there's articles in Bloomberg, there's videos about it, Forbes magazine writes articles. You can Google it, it's in Wikipedia, they'll still say it's not legal. And once they say that, and it's a trusted advisor, a lot of times people push it off to the side and won't touch it for another couple of years.
Right.
That has changed in the past 10 to 15 years because all of this new internet and the books, et cetera, that are out there on the subject. The next thing they tell you is that it's risky, okay? And I have to kind of explain to people that putting your money with a self-directed company is not risky at all because it sits in an FDIC-insured bank account until you're ready to use it. So the risk comes from what you invest in, right? And since you have complete control over what you invest in, if you're good in the stock market and you've learned it and your parents were in it and you understand it and you've got the tools to manipulate or help you understand it more, then great, stay in the stock market. I bought that red, yellow, green software that pops up on TV at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to play the stock market. But quite frankly, I read a book on blackjack, and I think I'd do better at blackjack in Atlantic City than I do with that. So risk comes from not knowing and not having an understanding of what you're investing in. Like I said, I'm biased towards real estate because I grew up around it. I studied it. I was an engineer. I know how to build it, et cetera. So everything has a certain amount of risk to it, but not knowing the information creates a lot more risk. And I don't think anybody watches their money better than themselves.
Right.
I don't care how good your broker is. His first responsibility is to himself and his family. His second responsibility is to you. If he can make you money, great. So, and people say to me that the stock market isn't guaranteed. Well, I'll tell you, for some it is guaranteed, right? It's guaranteed for your broker, his boss, and his company.
Yeah.
right? And all the infrastructure associated with it. So I don't want to basically hear the risk portion of it. And then the third part that's out there is that it's complex. There's a lot of rules and regulations. And that's true. There are rules and regulations, but that's the same for everything. And Camaplan is there to help you through those rules and regulations. We have a lot of classes. We bring in accountants and attorneys to do the classes. We bring in financial advisors. We bring in fund managers to talk to you and educate you on the different things. So I think that's probably three of the biggest myths that are out there. And you did mention one of the other things is that they don't understand that their IRA or 401k can actually take out a loan if they don't have enough money. They say, oh, putting 5,000 or 6,000 in an account every year, it'll take me forever to get enough money to buy houses.
Right.
In your situation, you can flip a house with $100, I'm sure. If you do the assignment side of it.
So can you comment on that for a second? So you can run, can you run assignments? That's one of the things that we've talked about before. I've talked with other people. Can you run as a professional real estate investor, if you're going to assign a property and make, $10, $20, $30,000, whatever, can you run those profits through your self-directed IRA?
If your IRA buys the property and then flips it, yes, your IRA can do that.
So more of a wholesale. If you take ownership of it and then resell it, you could run it through there. Yeah.
Yeah, or you can do it with the assignment with the $100 and just sell the paper. I've actually seen that happen. On a simple deal, a woman was buying a $200,000 commercial property, and the inspector went out and said, "I'll give you $250 for it." They got together, and the attorney said, "Well, we'll just assign it." They were going to do a double closing, but they said, "We'll just assign it over," and nobody had any qualms about it, so they assigned the contract, and she picked up $50K. In her IRA. And she was a little bit upset because she could have done that in her educational savings account if she knew it was going to go that way. And then she could have used that money to pay for her daughter's college.
Wow.
She was going to the University of Penn at the time, and she wouldn't have had to wait any amount of time to use that cash and not have to pay any of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think you're going to tell us a little bit about, can you tell us about just a little bit high level about folks that find other people that can essentially become their private bank, and they would open up an account with you and then help fund their deals?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who don't know how to find deals. And if you look at what the CD rates are in the banks now, in IRAs, you're getting less than 1%, right? And that's not going to make any difference in anybody's life. But as you also know, the banks won't lend on anything that isn't in pristine condition. They have a real hard time, lending on a rehab, et cetera. So we have a lot of clients who will actually lend money out of their IRA to rehabbers. And as a result of that, the rehabbers will borrow the money anywhere nowadays. It seems like 8 to 12%. It used to be 10 to 18%, but I guess based on the market and where they are, we see most of them coming in around 8 to 12%. But still, if you get 8 to 12% for a year while they fix this house up, stabilize it, season it, and get the renters in there, and either sell it at the end of that year, or if they refinance it, they made 12% on their money, and they were in first position on a house that was being rehabbed, so they had very little risk. It was like that first deal that I did after my father died.
Yeah.
And everybody still finds that need, and it's so much easier and faster to go to a private lender and get that money, and then put the property up. And if you find someone who isn't afraid to own the property, then it's even better because they say, hey, if you don't pay, I'm taking it over. But there's a lot of people that just don't want to own the property and much rather do lending. that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And can you talk a little bit about, I think one of the other myths or misconceptions is that it's too complicated to get the money out of an IRA to fund a deal, and the fees are overwhelming and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit about what a typical transaction looks like, and maybe I'm not sure if you can talk a little bit about what somebody would look to pay in fees on a typical, let's say, a residential single-family home type deal.
Sure, I'll give it to you real simple. Let's say someone's going to go lend money on a $200,000 residential property. They're going to lend $150,000. Rehabber is going to buy it for $50,000, and then rehab it for $150,000. They'll make out a draw schedule. They'll draw up a note and a mortgage, or have the title company or the attorney draw it up. And the only difference versus doing it yourself or having it in your IRA is that the borrower in the IRA will be CamaPlan for the benefit of Mike's IRA, right? So that's who will be on record as the title holder. The address will be to our office. And you'll have the attorney draw the note and mortgage up, or the deed of trust, depending on what state you're in.
Right.
I have seen some people just take a bank mortgage and note and go in there on Word and take out Bank of America and put in CamaPlan for the benefit of their IRA, and they have the exact bank documents that they've used. So that part of it's pretty easy. Once that paperwork hits our office, it'll be funded within 48 hours of us getting all of the paperwork. We'll help the people through it. We give them an orientation call, tell them everything that they need. Now, the fees associated with that, you pay a one-time fee of opening up your account of $50. You'll pay $95 for us to go through the closing of that note and the recording of it. And then every year that you have that note for $150,000, you'll be paying $275. So if you have that note for a year, you'll be paying $50, about $375, about $4.25.
Okay.
If there's any wiring fees or overnight fees, that gets added to it as well.
Right. So you're probably, if somebody was going to fund a house that someone else was going to basically remodel and resell or flip the house, then you're probably looking at the total of $400 to $500 in fees there somewhere.
Right, and if they're making 10% on the money of $150,000, they'd make $15,000, so they'd pay $500.
Right.
Whatever percentage.
And they could even potentially pass that through to the borrower, some sort of origination. So
absolutely, a lot of them do that.
Yeah.
I mean, but $500 is nothing.
Right.
When you look at the $15,000 tax free, if you paid 40% on that $15,000, if you did it in your own money, you would be losing $6,000.
Right. Yep, I understand. Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about CamaPlan and how, there's other self-directed IRAs out there, how you differentiate yourself, or the value that, why folks work with you, and, some of the values that you provide.
Well, one of the things that I like to say is we're investors, and we build our system for investors. Mm-hmm. We think we have a business model that purports to have good customer service, because we don't take all of our fees just based on how much money you have. It's not based on the value. We have two ways of doing fees. One is based on the value of your account, and the other one is based on the asset. As an example, if someone has $1 million horse farm, they're only paying $275 a year for that asset, which is the same that somebody that has a $100,000 house. And if you don't do anything with it, right, there's no other fees associated with it. The other thing is, we always tell people, call our office, see if you get an answer, see how fast you get a live person compared to others. We also provide education. The majority of it is free. Take a look at our website, CamaPlan.com. Look at the different investments, look at the webinars that are there, and I think you'll see that we're more interested in having people do good and send us their referrals than we are trying to sell a bunch of courses and product out there.
Right.
So just take a look at it. And I guess one other thing is we don't charge any annual fee when you're sitting in cash, only if you have bought something and we've had to do work for it.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. Well, and then just one last thing. Primarily, my audience, folks that watch our show, are in real estate. But with self-directed IRAs, can you talk about at a real high level other things you can do? I know you can hold precious metals and other things. It doesn't necessarily have to be real estate. Is that right?
Absolutely. We hold real estate. We hold notes and mortgages, shares in closely or privately held LLCs, LPs, precious metals, tax liens, and some direct registered stocks. So that's primarily the areas that we work in. You can invest in anything. We do have timber rights and oil rights. We actually have a couple of llamas. We also have sports tickets at Coliseum or at different sporting events throughout the nation. So yeah, it's pretty much anything except what the IRS prohibits. And I'll just let your audience know that the IRS prohibits life insurance and collectibles such as antiques, alcohol, collectible numismatic coins. That's what you can't invest in. But it's a very small list.
Yeah.
And again, check our website, camaplan.com, or give us a call at the office, 866-559-4430.
Awesome. We'll provide that information below the video as well so folks can find you easily. So, Carl, thanks so much for joining us today and for your information. Appreciate it.
Great, Mike. I appreciate you giving me a chance to talk to your audience, and I look forward to seeing more of your shows.
Fantastic. And I don't know if I should say good luck at getting back to the cold Northeast, or good luck at not getting out. I don't know which one of those you want to hear, but
yeah, I'm gonna wait at least another day, but
yeah.
Hopefully it's gonna warm up this week and the groundhog is wrong.
Yeah. All right. Awesome, Carl. Hey, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good day, Mike.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry, so get on over to FlipNerd.com.